Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here. So when it comes to home defense guns, there are all kinds of debates and arguments all over the internet over what is the best gun to use and what's the best caliber to use. So, should I use a handgun? Should I use a rifle? Should I use a shotgun? Is a 410 or a 20 gauge adequate enough for home defense, or should I only use a 12 gauge? Should I use birdshot? Should I use buckshot? Should I use slugs? What type of shotgun ammunition is the best for home defense? Now, I'm going to tell you right up front that there is not a one-size-fits-all solution to your home defense firearm or caliber needs, because it just depends on you, your situation, where you live, and there's just not a one-size-fits-all solution. So we're not going to try and break it down and come up with a number one solution for everybody, because that's not possible. But in this video, we are going to talk about birdshot versus buckshot when it comes to home defense, and we might even talk a little bit about slugs, but mainly birdshot versus buckshot. Now, I have seen videos on YouTube of 20 gauge birdshot ripping right through a meat target, and it did a lot of damage. And this, we're talking about home defense distances, so like 7 yards or so. And to me, it seemed like it was a pretty good round on that meat target, and probably didn't rip right through it as bad, or as good rather, as buckshot, but it did a lot of damage. But then I've also seen a video of somebody taking a 12 gauge flechette round that had some number 8 birdshot as filler material, and he shot ballistics gelatin, and the birdshot did not penetrate more than like an inch. And he basically said that that was the perfect example of why birdshot should not be used for home defense. And I think that is garbage. I think that is a terrible test when it comes to birdshot, because the birdshot probably didn't even have enough power behind it in a flechette round to actually do much damage. If it was a 100% birdshot, it would have done a lot more damage, because the flechettes is what got most of the power. But what we are going to talk about today is birdshot versus buckshot, and no, I don't have any ballistics gelatin, so I can't demonstrate the power of birdshot versus buckshot, but what I can do is explain all the different shot sizes and options when it comes to shotgun ammunition. And I don't even have them all here, but I do have a fair number. I wish I had a few more to show you, but I couldn't really find any that would work for me anyway. But number one thing that I want to talk about when it comes to birdshot versus buckshot for home defense is, for whatever reason, people only consider, in their YouTube videos anyway, they only consider 12 gauge shotguns, and they only consider like your cheap bulk number 8, number 7.5, number 9 birdshot when it comes to birdshot. And for whatever reason, the only buckshot they consider is double-aught buckshot, which is these 3 right here. So it's like they only have 2 options for shotgun ammunition, and they ignore everything in between. So let me just enlighten you, if you're not an expert on shotgun shells and shot sizes, but literally there is, from, I want to say, number 12 shot, which is 5 caliber, all the way up to triple-aught buckshot, which is 34 caliber. Every single there's a caliber for every single shot size. So a caliber, for all intents and purposes, is 1/100th of an inch. Typically, when you think of caliber, like say you think of 357, that's really like a 36 caliber. You just kind of round up or round down. But shot size is measured in 1/100th of an inch, except for like 7.5, 8.5. Those are measured to the 1,000th of an inch. So the way birdshot in the numbered system works is you just take the number 17 and you subtract the number of the shot that it is, and that's the caliber, or the hundredths of an inch that the shot size actually is. So this right here is 12 gauge number 8 birdshot. This is your bulk Walmart Federal shotgun ammunition that you get for like $22 a box for 100. So this is typically what people talk about when they talk about birdshot for home defense. And number 8 Birdshot is 9 caliber, or 9/100ths of an inch, which is very small and it doesn't really cause a lot of damage. This is for skeet shooting, dove hunting, things like that. Small birds that tend to get fairly close. You don't have to shoot a very long distance. And just like buckshot, there are different sizes of birdshot and different sizes of buckshot. So, moving up the line, and there is a number for, there is, literally every number out there when it comes to shot size. Not all of them are very common to find in stores. Sometimes you just have to load your own shotgun shells if you want a specific shot size, because it's some shot sizes are just not that common. Moving up, we have number 6 shot, which is 11 caliber. Now this is for like rabbits, squirrels, things like that. Something you want a little bit more power with than your number 8 shot. Now, with all these shotgun birdshot shells, you can have like an ounce of shot, you can have like 1.25 ounces, 1.5 ounces. It just depends on the specific loading. So the more the heavier your shot is, the more pellets you're going to have. So you're going to have a lot of 8 shot, a lot of 6 shot. Moving up the line, we have number 5 shot here. This is a 3-inch turkey round. Now, when you get into your 5s, your 4s, and I think even your 3s, that's typically what you use for turkey, and a lot of times they're copper plated, and a lot of times they're 3-inch or 3.5-inch. Which this one is here. Sorry, got a little confused there. So this is a 3.5-inch shotgun shell. This is 2 ounces of number 5 shot. Now, that is a very powerful shotgun round, and you can't tell me that 2 ounces of number 5 shot at home defense distances isn't going to do a lot of damage, because it is. It does a lot of damage to your shoulder. Now, typically speaking, you're not going to use a 3.5-inch shell for home defense, because those are typically in hunting shotguns. Now, I guess you could cut the barrel down, but again, this is a very powerful shotgun round, and it does a lot of damage to your shoulder, and if you have to make several shots, you're probably not going to want to shoot this 3.5-inch shell. However, it would do a lot of damage. Moving up the line, you have number 4 shot. Now these two are both number 4 shot. This one here is an 1.25 ounces of Remington, just regular copper, or sorry, regular lead number 4 shot. So number 4 shot is 13 caliber. So that's you're moving on up the line, so it's definitely more powerful than this, and it's a high brass loading, so it typically has a lot more powder behind it, and it is a lot more powerful than your typical number 8 birdshot bulk ammunition. And here we have another turkey round. This is a number 4 birdshot, which is 1 ounce and 7/8. So really there's not a whole lot of difference as far as weight goes between these two, and I think this is copper plated as well. So these two here, and even this one, very powerful when it comes to birdshot in the number category. So when I say number category, once you move on up, after you run out of numbers, you start to run into letters, and I'll get to that in a minute. Here we have another 3-inch round, and most shotguns you find on the market today are chambered for 3-inch, and this is number 3 shot, and it's actually steel, so it's used for like geese and ducks and stuff like that. Typically waterfowl rounds are steel. Now, one thing to consider when it comes to steel is it's lighter, so it's going to have less of a chance to overpenetrate. So if you miss your target, there's a lot less chance that steel birdshot is going to overpenetrate than, say, lead or even copper buckshot. Buckshot is a lot more powerful, and it's bigger, and so the fewer pellets that you have. I guess the best way I can describe this is you take the velocity and basically how much power is in these rounds, and you basically divide that by however many pellets you have, and per pellet it is going to be less powerful, say in birdshot versus buckshot, just because you have fewer pellets, but therefore you will not overpenetrate as bad in a steel birdshot, or even just birdshot in general, as you would with buckshot. That's just the way it works when it comes to power per pellet. Anyway, so that is steel number 3 shot, which again is a pretty powerful load, but it's steel, so it's not going to penetrate as far because it's lighter. Moving on up, you have number 2 shot. Now this is a very interesting shell. This is a Federal 2 3/4 Magnum number 2 copper plated shotgun shell. This is a very old shotgun shell. It belonged to my grandfather. He had a partial box of these, and I guess he used that for turkey hunting back in the day, because he did go turkey hunting a few times. But number 2 shot, you're looking at 15 caliber, so that's not a whole lot smaller than a 17 HMR, and you figure this is it's an ounce and a quarter of pellets that are just 2/100ths of an inch smaller than a 17 HMR size projectile. So an ounce and a quarter of that coming out of a shotgun at home defense distances is pretty good. Now, I do not have any of the lettered category birdshot, but let me just describe it here. So you have B, BB, BBB, T, TT, F, and FF. So just moving on up the line, these are typically used for like ducks and geese and things that you want to shoot at far distances. They're usually in steel shot, and you'll usually find them in a 3-inch or even a 3.5-inch. Now, for home defense, if you're going to use it for home defense, you're typically going to use a 3-inch, or if you can find a 2 3/4-inch, you can go with that as well. This particular one is just an old shell. I don't even know if they make shotgun ammunition like this anymore. This is probably from like the 80s. So you're probably not going to see any of the bigger shotgun shot sizes in a 2 3/4. You're typically going to see it in 3-inch or 3.5-inch. But moving on up the line, B is 17 caliber, BB is 18, BBB or triple B 19, T is 20, TT is 21, F is 22. So just imagine so many ounces worth of 22 caliber projectiles coming out of a shotgun barrel at a home defense distance. That is nothing to sneeze at. And we're talking about at shotgun power versus just a 22 long rifle power. Then you have FF, which is 23 caliber. And then you go straight into buckshot. So I don't have any number 4 buckshot or number 3 or number 2. The smallest buckshot round that I have is actually a 16 gauge shell, but it is number 1 buckshot, and I think it is 15 pellets in this 16 gauge shotgun shell. But number 1 buckshot is 30 caliber projectiles. Now, going on up the line, you have double-aught buckshot, which is your most common 12 gauge buckshot round. And you can have it in a 2 3/4-inch shell with 9 pellets or 12 pellets, which this one is. It just depends on your loading and how much powder you have behind it and what kind of wad you have. But this is typically what you think of when people think of home defense shotgun ammunition. And then of course you have your 3-inch buckshot, double-aught buckshot, which is 15 pellets typically. And then of course you have your slugs, and you have your Winchester Defender rounds, which are a slug, 1-ounce slug, and 3 double-aught buckshot shells. Now, the higher you go, of course, the more power you have per pellet, but the more penetration you have. Now, people always say that you need to have so much penetration, but you don't want to over-penetrate, and it's kind of confusing the way people talk when it comes to penetration and over-penetration, because you want so much and you don't want this much. But I'm going to tell you right now that once you get up so high, people are always complaining about there's a possibility of over-penetration. I can tell you right now that double-aught buckshot, triple-aught buckshot, slugs, all those bigger shotgun rounds are going to over-penetrate, and by that I mean they're going to go through a wall and the next wall and maybe in the next wall, depending on your load and how close the walls are together, and whether or not they have insulation in them. But for that nice sweet spot, you could get yourself like a number 2 birdshot, or number 1 buckshot, or birdshot rather, or you could go up into the lettered birdshot, which has 18 caliber, 19 caliber, 20 caliber if you can find it, and that's going to have a lot less over penetration factor in it when it comes to if you miss your target, or if you literally shoot right through the person that you're shooting at and then those pellets want to go further. You're going to have that kind of risk with double-aught buckshot, triple-aught buckshot, slugs. You're not going to have as much of a risk with birdshot, and that is why I think that certain birdshots would be good for home defense. Now, I would not use the typical cheap Walmart number 8 shot or number 7 shot or even the number 6 shot, but once you get up into like your 4 shots, you're looking at a pretty good power factor, and your 3s and your 2s, like what you use for waterfowl and other long-range bird hunting, and even your really low buckshot, like your number 4 buckshot. I think that is just a nice sweet spot when it comes to home defense shotgun shells. Now, if you're not so worried about over-penetration, like I'm not that worried about it, I typically use double-aught buckshot. But this number 2 shot here, this would be a nice home defense round if I was going to use birdshot for home defense, and I might consider that. I'd have to look and see if they even make this type of shotgun ammunition anymore in this specific size and loading. I don't know, but if they do, I think that'd be a nice option, or even like a number 1 shot, or like a B or a BB. If I could ever find something like that in this size of a shell, I wouldn't hesitate to use that for home defense. And I personally don't think the average person should hesitate to use that for home defense, because I just think that makes a nice sweet spot when it comes to shotguns. But for whatever reason, people only think of number 8 birdshot, double-aught buckshot, and those are just basically two different ends of the spectrum here. So don't let people tell you that birdshot cannot be used for home defense, because it definitely can. I would use a bigger birdshot, something kind of in the middle or even the upper end of birdshot, or even the lower end of buckshot if you're worried about over penetration and you're also worried about not having enough power. Definitely don't want to use the lower birdshot. So anyway, that is why I think that certain bird shots would be adequate for home defense. Subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I am Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.